guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be doing Piece of the Highline. This was a requirement for my final assignment for project 2. I'm using basswood and I'm just measuring out just a piece of it. I already have these measurements pre-done in my sketchbook and I'm just following that. Right now I'm using my 3/16 scale and I'm cutting it like just a little bit. I don't know how high I made it, but I know I did it like to fit the scale of the small people. Shout out to my mom in the background. Like, how much of you guys like have your parents like be in the background while you're creating your model, and it's like they want to put their input on stuff, they want to know stuff, and this and that. And I'm like, Mom, like, I have to do this assignment. It's time consuming, etc., etc. You know, I mean, yes, I enjoy her company, but I also need to be focused on this work because right now it was crunch time for me in a sense, because I really only had like a day or two to like do this model and wait for things to dry and get things hashed out. Now, in this video, I do want to talk about design, the design 1 and design 2, just to give people an idea of how these classes are run. Like design 1, it gives you a general concept of how to get your mind thinking on a very artistic scale. At this time in design 1, you have to think about how you could take an ordinary object and turn it into a structure. That really was the gist of design 1. And how can you make that structure with the materials that you, whether it's museum board, foam core, what's the other one, chipboard, and all the other materials you can find at the Blink store or at Michael's. Oh, and another thing, you do have to get accustomed to the materials that you're going to use, because you will be visiting these material stores a lot in your semester, and you really going to want to get accustomed to the feel of certain things and how they will perform with your model. Now, moving on into design 2, you really start thinking critically and logically about how your model is going to perform if you actually have your scale people moving inside your structure. At this point, you really don't have time to like mess up with your scales. But then again, it do depend on your professor. Your professor's lenience. Like, if your professor is very lenient, then they may not worry too much about the scale, but you do have to start taking into account the scale of how these figures will look in your model. You can't just cut and think it's going to be okay. A lot of professors don't like that, and they like things to be scaled correctly. And for you to understand that how a person can see over your structure or be seen from the outside, or however. And this all goes with how you take the pictures as well. If you take pictures and from an eye level and you can't see your scale figures, you're doing your model wrong, or you're doing your model in a way where you're not thinking of your scale, and that's not good. Also, a good habit to start to think about in your design classes is make sure when you're doing the models they are neat. Now, this might be hard for a lot of people because they don't know how to cut. I know it sounds weird, but there's a lot of people who cut their models and it don't look like even in a sense, or even like in a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but your model doesn't look aesthetically pleasing to look at. It looks like something a child would just throw a bunch of Legos together and call it work. And no, you're in college, you need to make your models look decent so that your professor can actually look at it and be like, okay, I see your thought process, I see how it goes, I see how it flows, and X, Y, and Z, and actually get good feedback. Because the last thing you want to do is create a model, and then the first thing your professor is going to say is, well, you need better craftsmanship. Because for us, we take hours, days to complete our models. Even our study models, we take time with doing that. But you really don't want to mess up with doing the actual final model, because that is your baby, and this is the one that you'll be presenting to the class at a later date. So can't talk. It's early in the morning. It's 8 o'clock. So for design 1 and 2, it's like an eye opener and a big gateway for you to understand how your model performs and how it feels and how it looks aesthetically. And you also get the chance of working in Rhino and V-Ray. You have to get accustomed to using Rhino and V-Ray, because when you hit design 3, you'll be using that a lot to do your model pictures, that your model pictures that you have to make 2D, that you eventually have to go into Illustrator and edit and enhance with a bunch of colors and whatnot to make it look good on the big sheet of paper that you have to bring on presentation day. That's where your computer skills have to kick in. So on top of you getting your craftsmanship together, you have to get your computer skills up to par as well. Because in design 1, you don't really mess with the computer stuff too much, other than using Rhino to create symbols and create squares and circles and letters. It's not too far detailed as opposed to design 2. So really in design 1 is mostly hand drawing. So if you're good at hand drawings, design 1 will be a piece of cake for you. But coming closer to the end of design 2, you have to really boost up your computer skills and know how to know the different commands that you have to use for the computer, and how to get certain angles of the model or the site and X, Y, and Z. And eventually you're going to have to invest in a good graphics computer / laptop. There's a lot of tips. Model making tips, use glue, use Elmer's glue, use wood glue, use crazy glue. All you gotta do is make sure that glue sticks how it's supposed to stick and not stick crooked and whatnot. And also, you're gonna want to, if you have some leftover material that you haven't used in the semester that you can return it, because that money can be used for the next semester to buy the next semester's materials, and that'll be in good standing for you, because then you won't have a bunch of materials in a corner just laying there thinking, oh, I'm gonna use it next semester, and you don't use it, and then it's it starts to build up, so you have to start weeding these things out. Another thing I would suggest is when you start doing your models, if your model gets too big, try do your model in the college if you can, because I know for some people they can't to do these models in the college, and it's kind of rough to travel with the model from your home to your college, depending on where your college at. Lucky for me, my college is only an hour away, so that's not too bad, as opposed to people who's traveling 2 to 3 hours, if that, depending on traffic, to a college. You have to start really thinking on your workflow and how you're going to go through with the semester. And another thing, when it comes to submitting your work, please submit it on time. if you can't do it on time, just make sure to submit it before the ending of the semester. Because I hate when some professors be like, oh, if you don't submit this, it's a 0 and X, Y, and Z. And then at the end of the semester, they're emailing you saying, oh, I don't see this work, so it's a definite 0. But it was like, but when it was assigned, you said it was already going to be a 0 if it's not in by the next class date. So, it's like a tricky thing, but I say do the work. You might get a lower grade for it, but at least you have something there in your portfolio and something in that folder to be like, yeah, I did the work. It may not be right to your standards, but I did something for the assignment. So it looks better than not having anything for the assignment at all. Another thing, your portfolio. In Design 1 and Design 2, you have to do a portfolio for each class. Some professors might tell you to print off your portfolio, which is like, you don't really want to do that, but you have to do what the professor says, and pray that your college printer don't work. But if it do, then you have to tough it out and print out your portfolio. If you have cool professors like I have, they never wanted us to print out. They just wanted the digital PDF of our portfolios, and that's it. I was like, cool. So now you gotta graphically think about how you're placing all the material you have done this semester in your portfolio, and that it flows and makes sense. You're basically doing it in a book form, in a sense. First of all, you're going to be using Illustrator. No, scratch that. You'll be using InDesign, and in this, you'll be making a book-like form, and you'll have your first page, which has your name, the course, the professor, X, Y, and Z. And then the second page is going to have maybe, I think it's a blank page, and then you're going to have your table of contents, then you have another blank page, and then you have the first page of your project. Well, a description of your first project, and then your projects in follow. Like, this is where you design your portfolio to your standards, to what is aesthetically pleasing to you, and hopefully reads good when you give it to your professor. Well, email it to your professor, and they give you feedback on what to fix and what to not fix. Because I had that issue where I did my portfolio, but my professor, she fixed it, and then I had to resubmit it with the changes she did and X, Y, and Z. I mean, it's cool to get feedback on your work, and to it's good to have another set of eyes looking at your portfolio, be like, yeah, you could have moved this here, oh, we didn't do that to this part in X, Y, and Z. And some professors, they want you to do sketches. They want you to add those sketches in your portfolio, and some professors want you to add the visual studies work in your portfolio. Some don't. Some only care about the 3 projects that they give you, or the 2 projects that they give you. But you do realize and understand that every time you get an assignment in your Design 1 and Design 2 class, is like has sections. So you have the project, the main project, and then you have project 1, A, B, C, D, E, different parts, and they all have to coincide in one, and that'll be the end of project 1. And around that time, it's probably either Halloween or Thanksgiving, and at that point you're heading into project 2 or project 3 before the break, and then after the break, y'all start up a new assignment in a sense, or y'all have a break or whatever to work on your portfolio or whatever. And this is kind of like a play day type of thing for us, where we just sit back and relax, and we talk about the semester, and we talk about the professor feelings and whatever, and we ask the professor questions on how's the other design classes, who's teaching them, X, Y, and Z. This is your time to really get to know your professor and to understand what other designs are in store going in further, like the design classes, like moving forward, like how will each design class be? What do I have to learn more or take into account when the semester ends? Like, what can I work on during the break? This is where you can ask them these questions, because these professors are here to help you in a sense, and they also do want you to ask them questions, and they do, and they don't mind because they see that you have an interest and that you have an understanding of there's more than what I'm giving you. That okay, you may have done the assignments for this class, but you still have to think about for the next semester, whereas it's going to be more and more work, but you also have to have time for it. Jobs. Depending on the workload of design class, you could possibly hold down a part-time job, maybe on the weekends or in the afternoons. Depending on how much days you have your design classes. I mean, I don't know how much classes people like to take, because I hear people like to take 5 and 6 classes, and I'm like, that's tedious, especially with design classes. And don't get me started on BTEC classes, because that's a whole different ball game right there. I'm only talking about design 1 and design 2, because that's where I'm at right now. I feel great. I feel good. I took my design 1 and design 2. I feel like I learned a lot more. I feel like my designs developed a lot more. I feel like the input that each professor had was good. Other than the snarky comments from colleagues that aren't so generous, you kind of have to have a tough skin for people who appear like they like you, but they really don't. They're only just talking to you because it's that class. And that's why I say you have to build a tough exterior around that, and just keep the conversation simple and short, and just move on with what you got to do, because at the end of the day, the only feedback that matters is your professors, because they are your clients. I was watching a video, and this guy, he was saying our professors is our clients, so when we make our models, we have to think of our professors in mind. And that made perfect sense, because at the end of the day, I may want to do something, but my professor may not like what I did, or he might try and enhance my idea further into something what he likes. And it's kind of like a tug and pull here, because on one hand, you don't want to change your design all the way, but on the other hand, you have to change your design, because then if you don't, then you might fare the worst of your professor grading you lower, because they don't like that you didn't take any of their considerations or advice into thought when you did your final model. And some of them will basically antagonize you for that. And please, when you are doing your model in Rhino, please make it as accurate as possible. Well, that's all I have for today. Hope you guys like this video. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.